You're listening to 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective Podcast. A new era of East Carolina football is here and will begin on August 31st when Mike Houston leads the Pirates into action at NC State. Between now and then, join us for a daily trip down memory lane as we experience Pirate football through the words of the men who made those memorable moments happen. Here's your host, Bubba Rosenbaum. Welcome into the Sports Objective Podcast, our 50 Pirates in 50 Days. I'm very excited to catch up with a guy who played for East Carolina in 1981 after starting his career at Villanova. Welcome into the show, Chuck Bushbeck.
Hey guys, great to be on the show.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time, appreciate you coming on to talk about your career in the purple and gold and that one season in 1981, and then also what you've been up to since. And just taking a look at things with that 1981 season or prior to then, you had been 3 years at Villanova. You're a native of Philadelphia. So take us back to the 70s and talk about your career at Villanova and how you wound up at Villanova.
Well, I was originally a soccer player at Lookin, and I had this talent I had a really strong leg as far as kicking football. So junior year, I was encouraged to go out for the team, and things just went really well from there. And I got a lot of national attention, and I just had one of those, backsides that just could produce a powerful kick. So I wanted to play a little D-back, but there was a problem with the school and the soccer coach, and he wanted me to play soccer. Football coach wanted me to play D-back and kick. So they decided I would play soccer and just kick for the football team, which was fine. It worked out. So as we're moving on, I get to an all-star game, and Villanova they saw me at practice, and they're local, so they saw what I could do, and they knew about me already, and so they offered me a scholarship right before the all-star game, and then at the all-star game, I had teams like Texas and Texas A&M come up to me, and they didn't know I had just recently signed, so we had told them, hey, I'm going to Villanova, and they said, okay, great, wish you the best of luck. So next 3 years, I was at Villanova, and it was a D1 program at the time, and we had a really good program. We played Boston College, we played Clemson, we played Navy, we played Maryland. We didn't have an easy schedule, so we played good, tough football. We were, pretty much a 500 team playing against good teams. And in the spring of 1981, none of us had any idea that they were going to drop the program. And it was kind of like during Easter break, heading into my senior season. And I'm looking for, I'm up for preseason All-American. I'm like, I'm really looking forward to my senior year. And the next thing you know, we get a phone call saying they dropped intercollegiate football. So with that, we were rushed out to the field house, and because of the legalities and D1 programs, you're not able to transfer to another D1 program, and you would have to sit out, basically. But in this case, because they dropped the program, schools were encouraged to come in and grab us, and it wouldn't go against their scholarship count, and the kids could play right away. So that was what was appealing for all the teams that came in. So as we're sitting there and, we're kind of hearing teams, call our name, and we would go and visit them. One of my buddies went to Florida Gators. My other two buddies went to Ohio State. And me and my three other buddies, Kevin Ingram, Jerry Rogers, and Milton Corsi, were sitting there like, okay, I think we're pretty good, and so apparently Ed Emery had already said, I want to talk to these guys first. So they waited till the end, and then we were introduced to Ed. And the funny thing is just from being up north, all my life, I never really heard the southern drawl like Ed pronounced it, and it wasn't not necessarily comical, but it was just kind of like, this is interesting. This is like totally different breed of football. So they made arrangements for us to fly down there. Kevin Ingram, myself, Jerry Rogers, and Milton Corsi, excuse me, And we fell in love with the place. And the culture was more or less the people of Greenville were so inviting and so friendly. I think that was the major topic of conversation of us flying back, about how friendly this town is. And, Ed, his hospitality, his wife Nancy at the time, the whole coaching staff, it was just the Buccaneer babes, you name it, right on down the line. Everybody wanted us to come there, and we felt wanted, and I think it was a no-brainer that, we would go there. And I had told the story numerous times how NC State had wanted me to come there as well. And once I told them I was going to ECU, they said, well, we'll helicopter you in Saturday night after the spring game, which we were down for. And I said, I'm really not interested. And they weren't real happy. That was that Monty Kiffin era, and they needed a kicker too. So that never happened, but it was a possibility. But I think we all wanted to go to ECU right away. And after I got back to Villanova after visiting, I was just like, this is where I'm going. And in fact, Maryland, who was very interested in me, even after I told them I was going to ECU, they still sent a guy up to recruit me. And they were impressive, Jerry Claiborne and the big turtle desk there in his office. But there was something about ECU that was just special, and I was meant to go there, and that's the reason it happened.
You couldn't get a good cheesesteak in Greenville in those days, but did you enjoy the barbecue?
Well, like I told people, the alumni took us out to dinner, and we went to a place called the Beef Barn. But two players, Wally Myers and O'Rourke, wide receiver, Larry O'Rourke, took us out on the town, and they took us to the barbecue. And I've never seen this before, but they just had what they call a pig picking. Oh, yeah. And they just hand you a big fork. Well, we're not kind of used to this. We're like have hot dogs and hamburgers and chicken on the grill. We don't see a big pig slaughtered on the grill and get handed a big fork to go in and grab what you want. So that was really awesome. And it was a totally different culture, and it was a great culture, and we embraced it. And that just added to the ambiance of us wanting to play D1 football at a high level. And we just felt welcome there. And there's no other way to explain it, but the people, the food, the town, everything about it was just special that we all felt it at the same time.
So, Chuck, you're obviously in a very unique situation, coming in with 1 year of eligibility remaining. And I'm sure obviously Coach Emery wanting to bring you on. Talk about the kicking situation entering that 1981 season.
Well, they had a couple kickers down there, and I know for a fact that, and I became friendly with practically all of them, but I know they were looking to be, they were looking to start there, and I guess when they heard I was coming down, it kind of changed their minds, but it was interesting because I got along with all of them, and everything really went well. I think I showed the goods out on the field where they felt okay with, this guy can kick, and, we see what's happening here. And it was just a lot of synergy there, and everybody got behind what I went through that year, and mostly the kickers. And we used to hang out a lot, and it was all good. It was all positive. I still am friends with actually one of the managers of the team, Charlie Chu Justice.
Oh yeah.
who just really did everything he could to help me out. And I know you haven't talked about it yet in my particular situation, but I used to hang with all those guys. I didn't always go out with the football team at Villanova. Hey, I would come back from the games with the band because I was, friendly with people in the band. It was just my personality type. I was a little different cut than the average football player. I enjoyed having a good time, and kind of kept that my focus. And I just all the players were just great with everything. And so there wasn't. I didn't feel there was competition. Maybe it was just me. I just went in and did what I thought I needed to do, and that's how it started until preseason physical for football camp.
At what point in your career was it that physical, or when did you get diagnosed or find out that something was going on and that you had Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Well, I was kicking really well, and I was putting balls almost out of the end zone, in practice, and I even got yelled at for not giving the return team a chance to show what they could do. They'd say, "Can you kick the ball higher and not put it out of the end zone?" I said, "Sure, no problem." So I did that, and I performed pretty well, and I was pretty comfortable where I was at. And then, as you know, everybody goes through a physical just to make sure everything's working and everything's good. And I actually got through my physical, and I mentioned to the doctor, "Hey, listen, I don't know if it's important or not, but I got this lump underneath my left arm, and hey, what do you think?" And he came over to look at it, called the trainer in, Rod Compton, who was our head guy at ECU Medicine, and right away I kind of got the feeling like something wasn't normal. So they from that they ordered a biopsy, and next thing I know, I'm coming out of the operation, and the doctor's at my bedside saying, "Well, we're gonna, we took the tumor out. We're getting the results now." And then they scheduled me for a meeting at the hospital, and one of the people from sports medicine went over with me, and that's when I was told that I had Hodgkin's disease, and that my career, at East Carolina was kind of done. I wouldn't be able to kick anymore, and that's where the whole story got going.
So, how did you react to that? And then clearly, you did continue playing and kicking. So what was the next step? What did you do next?
Well, I didn't accept it. I'm 21, and you're feeling like Superman at the time, and it wasn't making any rational. I wasn't coming to any rational decision other than what do you mean I'm not playing? Yeah, I'm playing. He goes, "Well, you're going to have to go through all these treatments. We got to figure out what stage it's in." And I said, "Well, okay, we'll just do it." He goes, "No, you don't understand. We got to take your spleen out." And I said, No, you're not doing that. And I guess, I don't know if they weren't used to it, but I think I actually put them in an awkward situation where I wasn't going to take treatments unless they let me play football. And that's really where the story began, because word got back to Ed Emery, what had transpired, and that I wasn't redshirting, which he encouraged me to do. The next meeting we had was in his office, and we had, board of trustees in there, we had doctors in there, we had the sports medicine people in there. I think there was even a lawyer in there. And it was right then and there that I told him, I said, "You guarantee me that these treatments are going to save my life, I won't play football, but you're asking me to stop doing something I love to do with the hopes of maybe it works." And I think at that point, it kind of changed the whole audience feeling of things. And there was a lot of pressure on Ed, because he wanted me to, live my dream, and still, he's a D1, head coach, and he wants to win ball games, and he wants to do the right thing, legally, morality-wise, program-wise. So the ball was kind of tossed in his court, I guess you'd say. So I kind of made my stance of what I wanted to see happen. I wasn't ready to quit and go home. And to tell you the truth, I think I don't think I really would have recovered from all the treatments if I hadn't played football. I think actually Ed Emery and his decision to let me play and be playing actually saved my life. As difficult as the circumstances became, I truly believe it saved my life today.
So did you go through treatments during the season?
Yeah, they did these biopsies, I'm sorry. And, they had taken a piece of liver out of my body. They cut a hole in my backside. They cut incisions on my insteps. which is another funny story, actually. And just to figure out how far this cancer had spread. So they figured that if they weren't going to take the spleen out, which they couldn't do or else I wouldn't be able to play, they would increase the doses of radiation that I would receive. And that's what they did. So I became incredibly sick during this whole time. But, like I said, my commitment was to play football. And as difficult as it got, I showed up every game ready to play. I missed some practices, and they were nice enough to put the lights on at night where I would come out and kick at night where it's a little cooler, where the sun was really taking a toll on my body. The radiation kind of burned my body up pretty good. And so, I worked through that and all the challenges that were ahead after that. But it was interesting is it was the first game we were playing I think they're the Catamounts, West Carolina.
Yeah, West Carolina Catamounts, that's right.
Yeah. And so I'm kicking off, and it was a funny story because Coach Emery, I got stitches in both my feet. And pregame, I got these pads that the trainer gave me to put in my shoe. And I'm kicking, and I just can't feel the ball. I'm not accurate. So I take the pads out. He wasn't happy about it. I said, I'm sorry, I can't feel the football. So I started kicking in pregame and felt a lot better. I started drilling the kicks and everything. I think the funny part was Ed Emery had gone over to the Western Carolina coach and said, hey, listen, this is our guy he just found that he had cancer. He's got stitches in his feet. Can you not send a headhunter after him, on the kickoff? And the coach said, sure, no problem. Well, don't you know the first kick, they run this play to the right on the kickoff, and they break through our special teams. And I got one guy coming up on the guy, and I'm the last guy. So we cornered him to the sideline. I threw my head down and chopped him out of bounds while our other player was on top of him. So we knocked him out of bounds, and the coach from Western Carolina got upset with Ed, saying, hey, you just told me to lay off the kicker, and here he is, tackling a guy. So that was the funny part about it. But, the trainer got pissed at me because, I had the stitches, and I ripped the stitches out of my feet, and I guess the rest is, an indication of how this season was going to go.
Your question?
Yeah, so you're dealing with all that. You're having the treatments. You got the increased radiation because you can't get your spleen taken out. Now, after the season was over, did they move forward and remove your spleen, or were you able to keep your spleen?
No, we just went through a number of episodes where they actually had radiated me to the point where we didn't have 911 back then. Right. And I'm in the dorm, and depending on the people who have cancer, and especially back then compared to today, the treatments, you could say they were kind of barbaric compared to what they're doing today. But it was the best we had. It was what they knew. So these treatments would make me sick every day. I would be throwing up in the dorm and having a hard time getting food down. I lost weight, lost my hair, and it eventually came to the time where one day I was just feeling really sick, and they had went to training table. Most of the players, they asked me to go. I said, no, I just don't feel good. And I went in the bathroom and threw up like I usually did, and I eventually passed out. And someone had called the paramedics. Like I said, there wasn't 911. I don't even know who called them, but they took me out of Belk Dorm in the ambulance, drew a lot of attention, and took me to the hospital. And the doctor had told me that my blood pressure had dropped to 60/40.
Well, that's dangerous.
Yeah, and they said, well, Chuck, when those numbers meet, you're out of here. So I said, yeah, I get it. And they actually gave me a week off of radiation. And Nancy, this is the big thing about that time period back then, which is different than today. Nancy Emery came into the hospital, and instead of them discharging me back to the dormitory after I kind of got my levels back up where they needed to be, she goes, you're coming home with me. And I said, no, I'm going to the dorm. She goes, no, you're not. And Ed Emery's sitting there just kind of listening to his wife. He goes, you're coming home with me. We're getting you back to health. And I don't even want to hear about you're going back to the dorm. I said, you're coming up. We're going to feed you. We're going to get you back because we got the University of Miami coming in next week. And, Jim Kelly and all those guys. We need you back up to where you need to be. So I said, okay. So I think that's the difference between yesterday and today. I don't know if that happens today. Back then, the human heart is what it was, and that was the first thing that came to their minds. Like, we need to nurture you back. And they didn't worry about the legalities of it. They just kind of that element that drew me to East Carolina, that heartfelt feeling about another human being, and really that saved my life. They nurtured me back, and I think it helped me get through the rest of the season and get to the final game and eventually to the award ceremony and move on after that.
Hey, two more questions about your battle with Hodgkin's disease. One, what was your parents' reaction? I mean, you're down in Greenville. You're from Philadelphia. They probably want you to come home and you can get better treatment here. I'm sure is what they thought. And two, at what point did you go into remission?
Well, yeah, you nailed it right on the head. Your parents want you home, and that's just how they felt. My dad was a Philadelphia police officer for 22 years, so we grew up in an attitude, and this came a lot from my high school coach. We in our high school, just to go back a little bit, and it's a form of a documentary now, actually, that's out there. Our high school, when I graduated, we had lost 27 boys to the Vietnam War.
Wow. And
there's a big monument outside our school, and we lost more kids to that war than any other school for that size. And I remember our high school coach saying, he gave us a talk on when to stand up, and that always stood with me. And it said, I don't care if you get knocked down on your butt, you find a way to get back on your feet. And when this hit me down there and my parents were coming down and saying, you need to come home, I just wasn't willing to do that. I said, this man trusted in me to recruit me to come in and play for him this year. I'm not going to let him down. And I don't know if it was my will or my temperament, but everyone seemed to kind of say, okay, that's what you want to do. That's what we're going to do. So my parents weren't crazy about it, but Nancy and his wife promised that they would take good care of me when I was down there, and they believed that, and they knew that their son was in the right program, that they were going to take care of business, not only on the field but off the field. So I would say that they wanted me home, but I wasn't willing to just go home at that point. I needed to do what I needed to do. And then, close to, we got done our last game against William and Mary, and, the test results came back, the recent ones, after that last game that said, hey, Chuck, it looks like your cancer is going into remission. We don't see too much of it anymore. So on December 8th, which was my dad's birthday, they just said, that's going to be your last treatment. And as of now, you will be in remission, and then we'll see what the future holds. So, I was able to get to the banquet and share some really great moments with my teammates. And that's what I wrote about in my book, Full Armor, which came out just like 3 months ago, where 2/3 of the book is about my experience with this at East Carolina and just the fabulous people that are in that city of Greenville, and how everybody supported me and circled the wagons and just did everything they could to get me through that season. So I'll always be appreciative to the Pirates and everybody in that city.
Where can people buy your book, Full Armor, at? I mean, is it available on Amazon, or where can people find it?
Well, it's been out for 3 months, so we initially got it on Amazon. It's on there. It's called Full Armor. It goes in a little detail about me growing up very quickly through high school and a couple chapters at Villanova, and then the 2/3 of the story, which really is about relationships and what's turned into be a love story, is the remaining 2/3 of the book. And even though it was a football-related story, it was about the people and the bonds that you develop with people that make the difference in your life, and that's what that book's about. So I'm very happy to get it out there, and there's other people now that are interested, to the point where I've been in Beverly Hills talking to a major motion picture agent who sees the story and just needs the script written properly to put it on the big screen. So we're looking forward to that. And
have you sold the rights yet, or?
No, not yet. We've had some. I've sat in his office for 40 minutes, which is unheard of for an agent to do, an unsolicited script to sit there with you. But we have the top 2 agencies out in Hollywood that are looking at this right now, and they've already said, we know this is a story. We know this can be made. We need
Absolutely.
it. We need it told from the right perspective. And once that's done, they will figure out the niche of where it belongs, and and all that kind of stuff. But it is a great story.
Yeah, that's something like Kyle was starting to say, just in terms of it being a great story. I've been around East Carolina football my entire life, and granted, I was born in 1981, but at the same time, with the way I followed the program, I was aware of you, but I was not aware of this story. So, and I know something else that's very cool. The cover of the book, it has a picture of you in your East Carolina uniform.
Well, you think it's me, but I had a bigger butt than that. That was my uniform, and my son actually posed for the book.
Okay. That's awesome.
So, but that was my helmet. They were my practice pants. That was our practice jersey. And, the guy did a great job at dusk taking the picture and made it look the way we were looking to make it. But it's truly an East Carolina story. And I've actually I wanted to get the facts straight. So I reached out to, Charlie Chu and a couple Buccaneer babes and cheerleaders, and the girl that I had a romance with down there, who was across from Belk Dormitory. What's that, Tyler, I believe it is?
Yep. Tyler.
Yeah. I used to sneak in Tyler, and for whatever reason, the den mother there would just let me in. I don't know what it was. She stopped everyone else. But I always seemed to get through.
Now, did you know you were sick? Did you get to play that to your advantage?
I don't know. I was just being me. And, it was just interesting how doors opened up. I don't know if they just said, man, this kid got a mindset on him. I ain't messing with him. Or, I'm just going to look the other way before I feel sorry for him. I don't know what it was, but I was determined, to do the things I wanted to do. And this was throughout that season. This was like one season that you could tell 20 years about. And in this story, it is a love story at the end between this girl who supported me the whole time that I was there. I was sick. I was getting a lot of people coming by the dorm, and it was recognized, and it made the ABC special. The Prudential College scoreboard, what it was called back then, before actually the North Carolina Clemson game. It was on nationally televised, so it went across the country. I got all these letters, but I can't tell you enough about the people that came into my life. I met this one guy. I was introduced to this blind guy who I wrote about in the book, and he would go to every ECU game. He couldn't see, but he could hear the action going on. And actually, when Ed Emery turned the lights on for me at night, because I couldn't practice with the team during the day, this guy would come out and hold my footballs. And that's a whole other dialogue going on right there. And then a little boy that I friended in the hospital, who we got some real bad news about when I was down there. and that's in the book. And my friend that hitchhiked from Villanova, he felt that I was like coming to the end of myself, that I was like, this was bothering me to the point like I didn't think I was going to make it anymore. Hitchhiked all the way down to East Carolina with I think $6 in his pocket and a road map. We didn't have iMaps or
GPS.
Google. Yeah, we didn't have any of that. And that story's funny. The book is it's you can laugh, you'll cry, but it's all factual. I think what it does more, it really sets the community of East Carolina apart from anywhere else you go, and the love and support that you got from people, from friendships and acquaintances, it shows itself in that book.
You mentioned Amazon. Is there anywhere locally in the Greenville area it can be purchased?
It's all on Amazon. I am trying to get down there for maybe alumni weekend and do something down there. I haven't made the connections yet, but Amazon, just Google Chuck Bushbeck. The books will come out. You'll see Full Armor. You can order it right from there.
Well, we got to get UBE to jump on board to carry your book. That seems like something a lot of Pirate fans would like to buy.
Yeah, I know some of the Pirate Nation different websites are aware of the story. I spoke to the AD down there. He's aware of that, and he's given me carte blanche. Say, hey, Hollywood's calling. We're open arms here for you. You want to come down and film down here? We'll do everything we can for you. So, yeah, I like to see it in the bookstore. I like to see it, get down there and do a book signing and stuff like that. And so we're working on that now. But I'm just happy I was able to tell the story. And it just, East Carolina is a very special place for me. So I will never forget it, and the people that helped me during a very difficult time.
Chuck, I know after your time at East Carolina, you had the opportunity to continue your professional football career with the Memphis Showboats in the USFL. So talk about that opportunity.
Well, after the cancer treatments, I was pretty beaten up, and I just really wanted to get home at that point. And as I went home, I started working out again, and I did enough that year to get noticed by a number of teams. The Oakland Raiders, well, they were Oakland at the time, the San Diego Chargers, the Bengals, the Chargers, but the Patriots were very high on me at the time, and they were actually called the Boston Patriots back then. So, interesting story. It's in the spring of '82, after I'm done East Carolina, and they come in to take a look at me, and I'm kicking, and I didn't have my strength back yet. I was still pretty accurate. Like, I nailed 15 out of 16 field goals for them. My kickoffs weren't as deep as they could be, but they understood. But it was interesting, as a side story, that guy I went to school with in Villanova, Howie Long, you may remember him.
Yeah, just a little.
So he's working out because the Eagles are looking at him, and I just got done my workouts early, and he's up for the draft, and I just sat and waited till I was done. Went over and waited till he was done with Dick Vermeil and the Philadelphia Eagles, and he's going through these drills, and I'm thinking, okay, this guy's going high in the draft. And then I heard someone say that, Howie, you're a very good player, but not quick enough for the Philadelphia Eagles. And I said, oh, my God, you got to be kidding me, right? So the Raiders picked him up, Alzado, Hendricks, they took him under his wing. And the next thing you know, he's a Hall of Famer, obviously. He's on Fox Network now. But these are the type of guys that I was around, him and Villanova and Anthony Griggs, who played with the Eagles. I go to camp with the Generals, and there's Herschel Walker, Brian Sipe, Doug Flutie. I go to Memphis, and there's Reggie White. We're playing against Jim Kelly. I mean, this was a really good league that eventually obviously folded, and these players merged in the NFL. So, yeah, I got a call from Pepper Rogers from the Memphis Showboats in 1985, and they want me to come down and replace the kicker they had. And, it's winter up here because that league was in the spring. So I really didn't get a chance to work out the way I should, and he threw me in there, and I was kicking a lot of footballs. I was pretty accurate and distance-wise, but by the time game time came, I had told him earlier, like, I really need to cut back, and I got the speech where, hey, you're getting paid, you need to do what we tell you to do, and so I did have a field goal and 2 extra points in my first game on ESPN that night, but it was a cup of coffee, and the rest is history. I knew what I came to accomplish this goal, and after everything I went through, it did it, and I was satisfied after that.
So life after football, I know, I don't know what you did immediately. I know you spent, I think it was 14 years with the Los Angeles Angels as a baseball scout. So talk about life after football and where things went.
Well, as soon as I got back, I was, I started a family. I have 3 children, and I was in behavioral health. I've always worked with athletes because that's where my heart was, but I really wanted to help people. I've been through a lot, and that's just where I was. So I went into child welfare. I worked with some people with some mental illness and things like that. So I did that for about 30 years and raised a family. But I really wanted to get back into professional sports, and obviously my athletic skills aren't what they were back, during my prime. But I love baseball, and I decided that I had a friend that knew Mike Scioscia, who was the coach of the Los Angeles Angels. And I flew down there, and he hooked us up, and next thing you know, they put me as an associate scout with them, and 11 years later, I finished up with them about 1.5 years ago. But it was great. I had guys that I've seen, like Mike Trout, who's from Millville, New Jersey, who's in my scouting area, so I was able to scout him. He actually signed his jersey for me just as a friendship. Which later on will be on eBay, maybe, or maybe not, I don't know. But so I really enjoyed that whole thing with the Angels, working with a lot of baseball players, getting about 25 players drafted in professional baseball. So that's where I've been, and I started getting more, based on this book that came out, Full Armor, called Quiet Toughness, and both books are on Amazon. But other than that, instead of writing more books, I started doing TV pilots, and knowing that the movie was going to get done, we started doing movie scripts. The next thing you know, I got a whole other, I'm back on ESPN radio in Philadelphia, 610, and I'm interviewing guys like Blair Thomas from the Jets, and Jerry Kramer from the Green Bay Packers, and Bill Berkey from the Philadelphia Eagles. So I've been doing that, doing inspirational talks, but still writing and getting some, hopefully, TV series, which I'm looking to put out there, which has been received by Netflix right now, which is a possibility. So there's a lot of stuff out there that I'm still working on, waiting to, come to fruition. So as I do that, I continue to work with the athletes and do all this other stuff as well, which is just a great thing. The big thing, I think, happened about, I was actually playing baseball still. Do you believe this? At 50 plus years old, I'm still pitching in a game, and I get this, and I'm over 100 pitches. I just feel like I'm tired, and my back starts to hurt, and I had to come out of the game. I just thought I was fatigued. I'm old, So they find out there's a tumor in my stomach, and thank God baseball actually saved my life, because if they didn't know that, they wouldn't have gotten to it early enough. But when it happened right after that, my heart got in bad shape, and I had 2 arteries in my heart that clogged. And they said it was from my radiation treatments back when I was at East Carolina. And University of Pennsylvania, which is known for their cardiovascular unit, just did incredible things to save my life. But the medicine wasn't working, and they said I needed a new heart. And, long story short, as I went down and get on the donor option list, that was the only thing that's going to save my life. I ran into a neuroscientist who taught me how to change my reference in my mind and how to create a different way of living. And I've done that. And 2.5 years out now, where my heart was badly banged up and I needed a new heart, I'm totally back to normal functioning again. And that's what the storyline is into my other book, Quiet Toughness. And that's what we talk about how powerful your mind is to overcome obstacles in your life.
That's incredible. So you were taught that by a neurosurgeon? Is it just a change of mindset, or?
Yeah, well, there's a new science out now. It's called epigenetics, and it talks about how your mind, your thoughts, emotions, feelings can change, your chemistry in your body. I think we all know that, being stressed all the time does not help our body.
Yeah.
It causes illness and things like that. What I've learned was how being in the right frame of mind actually can improve your health and take care of a lot of medical drama that's going on inside of you. And that's basically what I switched to. The physical medicine that the University of Penn offered me saved my life. But now that, I'm no longer on a donor heart list, this new way of thinking has put my life in a totally different arena, which is allowing me to be the person that I truly am. And I talk about that in my book, Quiet Toughness.
On a lighter note, Chuck, something I wanted to follow up with. You're talking about the relationship you were able to develop with Mike Trout during your time as a scout for the Angels, with him being from Millville, New Jersey. That's what is kind of funny, because before getting drafted so highly and making that pretty obvious decision that most people would make to go pro and take all that money, he was headed East Carolina.
Oh, I did not know that, though. I saw him senior year. We were up in Flemington, New Jersey, and we were sitting there, and all the major league scouts are there, and I'm with my boss, Greg Morehart, who I think is now with the Atlanta Braves, but he was with the Angels. He was my supervisor, and we're sitting there watching Trout, and we're drafting. We have 2 picks in the first round, and we have one earlier, and we have the 25th pick. And we're sitting like, we're not going to see Mike. If we're going to take this other guy before Mike Trout, we're not going to see him for our second pick. So a scout comes up to me and says, "Hey, do you guys like Trout?" I said, and then, the scouts are like, they play it cool. Like, yeah, we kind of like him a little bit. We think he's going to be something. And we played it cool. And he says, "Do you think he's going to be an everyday ball player?" And I turned to my boss and I said, "You know what? We may grab this kid." So I felt what the other scouts were feeling. They didn't have the confidence that we had, or at least my boss had. And I said, we're going to grab this kid. And that's exactly what happened. So I did not know he was going to East Carolina, or else he would have set the place on fire. But as you know, Mike Trout is the Mike Trout we know today.
Indeed, yeah. He verbally committed to East Carolina, and had he not got drafted so high, he would have been a Pirate.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
And I remember hearing that story. I saw it in an article here in the last few years, as far as Billy Godwin, who was the head coach at East Carolina at the time, being there to watch Mike play, and just the number of scouts that were around then compared to early on in his recruitment. And he said he ain't never going to make it.
Well, yeah, that's kind of, I saw him freshman year in Millville, and I liked him. But I don't think anybody really expected him to be the player he is today. But my senior year, we saw. Well, I think we saw it, what he could become, and I think a lot of scouts, they sometimes follow the leader, and one guy, who's been around for a while says he's not crazy about him. They kind of, go that direction. But my boss was really good at what he did. He used to be with the Mets. And he liked them, and I liked them. And after hearing that comment, I was like, you know what, we're going to grab him. I don't know what he's going to become, but I think he's going to be a lot more than other people think he's going to be. And sure enough, he is.
No doubt about it. Chuck, let's talk a little about East Carolina Pirate football this year. New coach Mike Houston coming in. Really a huge culture shift. recommitting to a more physical style of play that's been absent from the program for a few years. So tell us, as far as you following the Pirates now and being obviously up in Philly, you can't get down to Greenville but so often. So I know playing so many games on ESPN and so forth, ESPN Plus and all those platforms really have to be a good thing for someone like you.
Well, people in my neighborhood that know me, know that I do at ESPN and kind of the career I had. They know I'm from East Carolina. They know from Villanova, but they also know about my story from East Carolina from the book. So they understand my relationship with the Pirates. So, it's been I guess you could say a little rough in the last couple years watching, but there's something inside of you that still says, this is my program, these are my guys. And what I'm seeing from Houston and the way he came from James Madison and his dialect now with the players, because I get it, it's great social media. You get to hear his voice. You get to hear his game plan. And you know what? It sets me back to old school smash mouth football, where, hey, you're going to have to really beat me because I'm not going to beat myself. I'm going to come at you 100%, and if you're better that day, fine. But I am going to make it extremely difficult for you to beat me because my technical work's going to be good and my heart's going to be in the right place. And I think what I'm seeing is that's the ethics that we grew up with back in the 70s, early 80s. I know the athletes have changed today. They need a little more latitude, I guess, a little bit with the social media. But, my old friends say, we didn't get water breaks. We didn't get all this contractual breaks and that the NFL gets and things like that. But I really like his style. It reminds me of what I played and what coaches expected of me and what I expected of myself. And I think that is going to go a very long way in changing this program around. And I would just love the day that all of a sudden we're talking, beating Alabama, beating Clemson. And now this guy who I think has the ability to take a good D1 program and make it great, I think he's going to put East Carolina on the map more than it's ever been before. And I'm looking forward to it. And I'm up here, I'm watching the ESPN channels, and whenever I get East Carolina on, I'm watching it. And I'm looking forward to it. And I tell all my friends, my kids, you got to go to an East Carolina pregame, man. You got to go tailgating down there. That's just the best around. There ain't nothing better. So I'm looking forward to what Houston's going to do down there this year.
Well, hopefully he can make you proud and beat the Temple Owls this year on a Thursday night, and you can get some bragging rights there in the city of brotherly love.
we did that early on when Ed Emery was still coaching. They'd come up and play Temple, and we said, hey, let's have a party back at our house and get all the ECU people here, and it was great. And I would love to do that again and just say, hey, ECU, where are they at? I don't even know where they're at this year. Are they down there or up here?
It's in Greenville. It's a Thursday night game in early October.
Okay. Well, the following year they're in the conference, right? So
yep.
We'll get them up here. We'll have a big open house, and we'll have a good time. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting down there this year, getting back to the pig pickings and the little country fest that are put on before the game, and hooking up with a lot of alumni, and looking forward to Pirates football this year. That's for sure.
Well, Chuck, we certainly appreciate your time. Just an awesome story that you have. We really so thankful that you came on and were willing to share so much about that experience with us. We'll certainly push your book, and we'll have it on our social media, Facebook, Twitter, etc. And we'll do what we can as far as seeing if we can't get that in UBE and maybe Dowdy student stores and so forth, maybe a book signing like you mentioned.
That would be great, guys, and I am so appreciative of what you guys are doing, this 50 for 50, and highlighting, guys from the past that are Pirates, and I really appreciate all your efforts here. It's been a great interview.
That concludes this edition of 50 Pirates in 50 Days on the Sports Objective. Remember, join us daily between now and game day as we'll talk Pirate football with players from various eras. All these interviews are available exclusively on SoundCloud and our YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe and follow so you're alerted when we post new content. Thank you so much for listening, and as always, go Pirates!